Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. There's going to be much reference to blood, lifeblood, the life of the Buddha, the life of the Buddhas and ancestors, your life, and of heart-mind. Shin, it's represented by the ship and three drums logo of the OBC. But heart-mind is that which we constantly return to. And return to through our raising the ears of our heart, and we will hear. Raising the eyes of our heart, and we will hear. So our senses are very much active. I'm going to read you the closing verse of the lay ordination ceremony. That lay ordination ceremony and committing to the precepts is very foundational on the teaching of the ceremony that is being looked at today. The ceremony in Japanese is called the Ketchimyaku ceremony, following where the bloodline of the Buddhas, I haven't got it, but anyway, following the teachings as the bloodline wherever they may go. And it involves a procession of following. And that is confirmed, the following is confirmed, vowed and set in motion, and it is spoken about in this last blessing verse of the lay ordination. Having taken the precepts, received the precepts, and everybody has said, I will. Now the celebrant recites the following, the celebrant representing Shakyamuni Buddha. Now the universe rejoices, the earth trembles, and the flowers fall. This is obviously quite poetic language. The bodhisattvas of other worlds ask their Buddha what this means, and the Buddha replies that a new disciple has been given the pure great precepts of the bodhisattvas and been converted to the truth by the master who was given the precepts before in the teaching of Shakyamuni, who is the Buddha of this world. The disciple will become a Buddha in the future through this merit. Therefore, the universe rejoices. How could it be otherwise? The bodhisattvas, on hearing this explanation, bow towards you, saying, "If this is so, you are the same as us. You are believing in and taking the Buddha for your master and making the bodhisattvas your friends. After receiving these precepts, you obtain their unbreakable merit. This is the permanent precept. I pray that you may always keep it. You must never lose it." To have attained to such a relationship and possess such a pure body is surely to have attained the world of the precepts. Is this not so? To whom do we offer this merit? To where do we offer it? The offering, the donor, and they who receive these three things are completely immaculate. There is nothing to be desired. Let us, together with all living things, offer this merit to the highest truth. Then there's the three precepts. Then there is another verse. You might say it's a verse of affirmation, affirming. We live in the world as if in the sky. Just as the lotus blossom is not wetted by the water that surrounds it, the mind is immaculate and beyond the dust. Let us bow to the highest Lord. Heart, mind. Could say the altar of your heart. That which you return to formally in Zazen, and that which guides you, sustains you. It's the matter of faith trust. The trust that the spiritual lifeblood of the Buddhas and ancestors courses through your veins. Shakyamuni Buddha, the historic Buddha, held up a flower to Mugō. He was awake enough, and I do mean awake in all sense, recognized the symbolic meaning of the flower, and whether there was a flower or not, who knows. And he smiled. Mugō smiled in recognition. The smile was a silent inward one. Buddha recognizing Buddha. Actually, this is not mysterious. This mutual recognition occurs not infrequently. It is embodied in the fact that all things teach. Should we be awake enough to recognize that? And the mutual recognition works because of anatta, no separate individual soul, no gap between self and other, no gap between Shakyamuni Buddha and Mugō and all the other monks who have passed on the teaching down to the present day, all together and in one straight line. All things teach: earth, trees, wooden posts, carrots. These all things have a particular unique nature of form and colour, etc. While that which passed between Shakyamuni Buddha and Mugō is universal, a universal truth, which cannot be conceptualized, held on to, touched. Ketchi of the Ketchimyaku, the living, flowing blood of the Buddhas. That's what it's referring to, Ketchi. Kohozenji, who was Rev Master Jiyu's master, did a brushed symbol of Ketchi. And it's clear that it is blood, because the bottom strokes are rather like blood dripping, flowing. Now this heart-to-heart passing on might sound a bit strange, and I'll give you an illustration, scientific illustration actually. So imagine this: two gongs are placed side by side and they're not touching each other. One gong is struck and sound waves travel through empty space, and the other gong starts to ring. If you have two gongs in your possession, you can try that experiment out. To know that, better word, resonance, which is occurring moment to moment and mostly out of conscious awareness. One has to raise the ears and eyes of your heart up, open, as in that blessing verse that is being spoken of. Is this empathy? Is this sympathy? I think it goes past both of those, yet includes it too. So it is, and so it was, that the lifeblood, the heart-to-heart resonance between Shakyamuni Buddha and Mugō, the recognition of that resonance, the smile, was marked and set in motion. However, the historic Buddha was not the first Buddha. He didn't invent something, in other words. What we're talking about is a universal truth, not confined to Buddhism or exclusively the possession of Buddhism. How could that be? How could a universal truth be the possession of one particular group of people? One way we show this is there are 7 names before the name of Shakyamuni Buddha on the ancestral line. There are 7 beats on the drum in the morning, representing the 7 Buddhas, the coming of the 7 Buddhas. So there is, in actual fact, no beginning or end to this heart-to-heart transmission of the truth. And so any more than there was a start to the journey of training any more than there is an end. We talk about endless training. It's better to think of our training as beginningless and endless, and less of a journey, more a playing. Those bodhisattvas, this is poetic language obviously, have a garden in which we enter when we join them. And our job is to play and tend the flowers in the garden of the bodhisattvas. Doing that which is ceasing from habitual harmful actions, doing that which is good, and being good for others. Quite often the tending of the flowers in the garden is to appreciate them deeply for their teaching, their unique ways. And to have compassion and love for their presence. Compassion and love, which is what we are, and using wise discernment, we take action or not action. Our physical hearts pump blood around our bodies reliably, and so does the spiritual lifeblood of the Buddhas and ancestors. Flowing heart to heart through the line of the ancestors, our particular spiritual family, our spiritual ancestors. The line of names we chant each day out of recognition and gratitude for their passing on heart to heart, their living lifeblood, wordlessly past mental constructs, kept pure to the source, the fundamental truth, unencumbered. It's termed a line because it is a line of people joined together as human relatives are joined by blood. In this case, the blood that they share, we share, is represented in diagrammatical form by a red line which twists and turns one name behind the other, as in a procession. And I'll say more about the red line later. The ceremony of Ketchimyaku does not have a fixed time or place that it starts. A simple monk, represented by Shakyamuni Buddha, dressed in unremarkable clothes, carrying a bowl, being receptive and giving, that's what that bowl represents, and carrying a staff called the blossom staff. They are chanting the Gyate Gyate, Hara Gyate, Haraso Gyate, Boji Sohaka, and that's our chant for today. And it's chanted softly, not loudly, not broadcasting to the world. It's saying going on, always going on, always becoming Buddha. Those who hear and see catch the Buddha, so to speak, and follow. This in the past has been actually a bit of a scramble, and so now it's a little bit more formalized as to the start of the ceremony, but that is the spirit of the ceremony, that one sees and hears and follows in a very direct way, physical way. The way led by the monk twists and turns, and some years I've wondered as guest master whether certain people are actually going to injure themselves as we climb up waterfalls and across fields, not following a path. Things have moved a little towards health and safety, so the way that the procession goes whilst twisting and turning is less physically challenging, I want to assure you. Those who have not received the precepts and come to Jukai. It seems that there's no known destination. And really, it represents that there's no beginning to Zazen. And no end. We are walking the line of the Ketchimyaku. We are on the line following. Eventually, the procession heads towards the main ceremony hall, the main altar of the monastery, and the altar of your home altar too, which represents the centre or heart. Our heart, may we within the temple of our own hearts dwell. That comes from the litany of the Great Compassionate One, doesn't it? The old monk hands over the bowl and the staff and climbs onto the main altar and sits. Then there is the explanation of the diagram that you receive. An abbreviated form on paper explains the teaching of the ancestral line, the spiritual teaching of the ancestral line. It explains what it represents. And then, following that talk, everybody comes up one at a time and is given a paper copy of that which had been shown. Returning to that red line, the bloodline, the life-giving blood, representation of our knowing within unknowing, you might say, that we come from emptiness and return to emptiness, and this again is represented on it's called the transmission silk that the celebrant shows. It's not actually silk. It's a diagram that the monk copies from their master's silk and is part of the 3 silks that monks receive at the time of their heart-to-heart transmission. The emptiness is represented by an empty circle. The red line, literally a red line, goes through the lines of names, coming through to your name, which is written below the abbot, representing Shakyamuni Buddha, and by that name it says, new ancestor. it's official. This is not nothing. This is officially proof, and I think in the East it's used as proof, that you are now joined in the line, the transmission line of Shakyamuni. The line continues through your name and goes up and around to the empty circle. The more that one trusts in the heart-mind and the seeing, hearing within the mind and responding, following, just as when following the old monk, the more confidence one is in trusting oneself, confident one is in trusting oneself. To simply get on with life. Having a quiet confidence, born of practicing confidence, one can proceed to the next most important thing. It's a very simple thing. Having the faith, trust that we will hear. And I'm saying with the ear of the heart and with the ear of the ear. And see what with the eyes of our eye and the eyes of our internal seeing. Seeing what is the most important thing. And often that is not as clear as it might be, because there's calls from many quarters calling for our attention. It's tricky at times. And the more one endeavours to move to be empty interiorly, the more likely your path forward will be clear and unencumbered. We repeat often, let go. Let it go. This is what I'm referring to here with moving to being empty interiorly. Practice is predominantly about emptying, letting go, rather than accumulating, filling up. Talks about this in the scripture of great wisdom, doesn't it? This kind of confidence, as like faith, is not confidence to do or to be or to achieve or even to appear confident. If it's marked by any kind of quality that you can know for yourself and is experienced and known in others, it's the qualities of humility and gratitude. It is said that as long as bowing lasts, Buddhism lasts. Bowing is the embodiment of gratitude, whether one is bowing fully on the floor or bowing in one's mind. In fact, now I think about it, humility and gratitude come together. But they only come together and are exhibited when we can empty ourselves of all that we may carry and harbour. There's no harbour for the ship named regret, guilt. There is no safe harbour. The safe harbour, you might say, is the altar of our own heart's dwell. where we dwell. Homage to all the Buddhas in all worlds. Homage to all the Bodhisattvas in all worlds. Homage to the scripture of great wisdom.